Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is VirtualNunchucks, and welcome to the channel. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you had a great weekend. Um, and if you're new around here, again, my name is VirtualNunchucks, and what we do around here is usually some news updates, opinion pieces, and gameplay reviews. Anything about gaming, we pretty much do it on the channel. So if you're interested in gaming at all, in any way, shape, or form, I urge you to hit that subscribe button. I urge you to hit that notification bell so that you're notified whenever content hits the channel just like that, because that's what we do around here. And if you like that content, why not come and visit me every once in a while? Appreciate that. Also, if you like this video, I would like it, and so would the algorithm, and so would everybody else who wants to find the channel. If you'd leave me a like on the video, that would be awesome. Leave me a like rating on the video if you enjoyed the content. And if you have any suggestions or comments, always leave me a comment in the on the bottom of the screen there, obviously, and I will respond. I always try to respond to everybody who leaves me a comment, and I appreciate you guys, everybody who participates in the community. Thank you very much. All right, so with all that said, you can also follow me on Facebook.com/VirtualNunchucks. You can follow me on Twitter @VNunchucks and Twitch.tv/VirtualNunchucks, as well as here on YouTube. I suggest that you follow me on all of those spaces, but especially Twitter, because that is my main source of information and stuff to get out to you guys. So if you want to follow me on those different places, that's awesome. We'll be returning to Twitch sometime this month. I'm planning on doing it sometime later this week. But we shall see, because like I said, my son's on mini vacation right now with his grandparents, and I kind of don't like to do live streams without him, so that's what I'm kind of waiting on. Anyway, the reason I'm on here today, I wanted to put out a video that not a lot of people are putting out anymore, and I don't, probably because it doesn't get a lot of traction, but I want to bring up 5 franchises that I think need to be revived. Whether it's due to licensing or whether it's due to studios shutting down or whatever. Wherever these franchises are, they need to be revived, and they need to come back, because to me, they were completely awesome, and and honestly, I think that they would do people a great service. Now, what you're seeing in the background obviously is Sniper Elite 4. I'm only going to use it as a background today. I don't have any gameplay to show, and I apologize. Normally I have some kind of gameplay to show while I'm talking. But anyway, let's get down to the countdown. My number 5, we'll start obviously from the bottom. My number 5 choice, for those of you who know me, know I've been gaming for a very long time, so this is one of those old ones, but good ones, and I think they need to revive it. A long time ago, there used to be a company called Sierra Online. It was a PC company. They developed PC games. And one of their best franchises, in my opinion, was Space Quest. They had 6 titles in all, and it was really a narrative-driven spoof of everything sci-fi, from Star Trek to Star Wars. And they followed the misadventures of Roger Wilco, and he was a janitor on a space station, and somehow he got embroiled in all these intergalactic mishaps and big problems, and he was the one that had to save the universe, basically. And they had a great narrator who was always making jokes. It was kind of like those click and drag adventures, or what do you call them? You basically, it was a click-based adventure where you clicked on certain characters or certain things on the screen, and he interacted with it, and that's how you progressed the story, and that's how you did everything. And you had to click on the side of the screen to move into another section. And yes, it was old, and yes, it is ancient, but the material was so great. The material was so great. The narrator was funny. The characters sometimes would spoof people like Patrick Stewart, try to do impressions of Patrick Stewart. I don't even know. At one point in time, I think in Space Quest 6, Patrick Stewart appeared as the captain of the vessel as a lion. And I swear, because if he didn't, it sounded just like him. And it was funny. It was just a funny set of games. I played every single one of them. and they made 6, and Sierra Online is no longer with us. So that's kind of sad, but they need to find out who owns that license and just be true to the license and bring comedy back in games. To me, that was totally awesome. And in that vein, in that same vein, I'll give you an extra one. I kind of wish they would revive The Curse of Monkey Island. Now, yes, you can get it. I think you can get it on console still, and you can go to GOG.com, and you can probably get it there and all that kind of stuff. But the Curse of Monkey Island games, oh my goodness, think that only in space with Space Quest 5. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about, and Full Throttle and stuff like that in space. That's the kind of stuff we're talking about, and I wish they'd bring that back. I think the narrator, they even announced a year or two ago that the narrator even passed away recently. So that's sad because he was really, really, really funny. They gave him some great lines. And they didn't worry about being politically correct or anything. They just made a great game, great story, and great jokes. And unless you're just some kind of stick in the mud, you'd find the jokes funny. Anyway, that's my number 5. Number 4, I wish that they would take the time, somebody would take the time, to revive the James Bond video game franchise. Now, to be fair, all right, I know GoldenEye GoldenEye on the N64 or whatever platform that was. I'm old, so forgive me. Is the golden standard. Everybody loves that game. It's been remastered a couple of times. People have played it, and there's still, to this day, a diehard community for GoldenEye. I get that. That was an awesome game. Okay. If I could find a Nintendo 64 that worked at the moment, I think I'd plug it in and play that game. All right. Because to me that was an awesome game too. So I'm with you on that one. But they did have other good games. All right. We're not talking the dumpster fire that was Nightfire 007, although I did play that game, and I did play the multiplayer with my wife, and we had a great time. But I'm not talking about 007 Nightfire, the dumpster fire that was that game. I'm not talking about the remakes of, Tomorrow Never Dies, although I did play that game too. I'm not talking about James Bond Racing. What I want them to bring back, and why it was so cool, was one of the best Bond games that they ever made, and I can't remember if it was on PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3. I want to say it was PlayStation 3, but I'm not real sure. Forgive me, I played it, but it's been so long, and they blur together sometimes. Everything or Nothing. It had William Dafoe in it. It had Judi Dench as M. It had Pierce Brosnan and his likeness as Bond. It had John Cleese's Q. It had a great story. They brought back Richard Kiel as Jaws, and they tied every bit of the lore together in one cohesive game. They talked about Christopher Walken's character Max Zorin in A View to a Kill. They talked about Scaramanga, which is a man with a golden gun. They talked about a whole bunch of stuff, and they brought all these characters back and all this neat. And it was an original story, and they made it work, and that was one of the best Bond games ever to hit the consoles ever in Bond history. And sadly, I think that was an EA game, I don't think it was done by Activision, but then Activision got the license, and we got Bloodstone and a few other games that I won't mention, but Bloodstone was a pretty decent game. But they left us with a cliffhanger. It was Daniel Craig's second outing, I think, as Bond in a video game, and they left us with a cliffhanger, and it was never resolved because they lost the license, and now I'm not sure who has it. And they need to bring Bond back. They don't need to bring Bond back to parody, to give us a cash grab. They don't need to bring Bond back to just go off the most recent movie. They need to do what they did in Everything or Nothing and come up with an original story, and make it a good spy Bond story, because in Everything or Nothing you had vehicles that had special weapons you could get on a motorcycle that had flamethrowers coming out the sides. Cars that he got into would be a typical Bond car with all kinds of weapons and gadgets, and The writing was amazing, and the story itself was just awesome. They need to do that again. All right, so there's my fourth game. I think they need to bring Bond back. I think they need to bring Spawn Quest back, or Space Quest back. But they don't need to bring Bond back just for cash. They need to bring Bond back in a good way. The third, we're up to number 3. Third franchise I wish that they would bring back. The number 3 franchise I think they need to bring back. They need to bring back. See, Space Quest, Bond, Transformers. Transformers. There you go. They need to bring back Transformers. Okay. Now I know what you're gonna say. I know what you're gonna say. Okay. Well, we had 2 games in the PS3 era, War for Cybertron and the sequel. Okay. Which were done fantastically by Activision. I have to give Activision props, and High Moon Studios and whoever did that. That was amazing. Okay, that was amazing. They basically rebooted the franchise, and those 2 games were amazing. The other games that were not amazing were the games based on the Michael Bay films, which, if you're an old Generation 1 fan, and you're a Peter Cullen fan, and a Welker fan who is the voice of Megatron, yuck. Yuck. I don't like them. I never have. The only reason I even watched them was because they had Peter Cullen in them, and I'm sorry, that man will always be Optimus Prime to me, because he's an amazing man. Anyway, they need to bring it back, because those 2 games, War for Cybertron and its sequel on PS3, were amazing. Now, they also did something else. Activision also did something else that was completely amazing. They released, in my opinion, one of the better, again, we can talk about all the trash games that they made, but I'm focusing on the 3 games that they made that were completely amazing. All right, War for Cybertron and its sequel was amazing, and then they released Transformers Devastation. Transformers Devastation was a homage to the animated series back in the 80s. They brought back all the original voice actors that they could. The story itself was pretty good, and I'm not gonna lie, all right, I still have that one in my library. I haven't played it in a while, but I still have that one in my library, because there's no way that you can't tell me that was not an homage to fans of the original series, and that was not a good game. Because, I mean, I guess you could make the argument. It was a little flashy. It kind of reminded me of Bayonetta. It was a little flashy, and it was a little over the top. But so were the 80s cartoons. And I enjoyed it. I think it was a good story. It was an homage to fans, and there were hidden gems all over the place in that particular game, if you were paying attention. They brought back such good characters as Jazz. They brought back Cliffjumper. They brought back... at one point, I think they even brought back what's his name, the spaceship guy, Astro Train from the Decepticon side, and then Omega Supreme from the Autobot side. And I enjoyed that game. It was great. It was great to see. And my son, when he saw it, he was like, "Whoa, this is cool, man!" I was like, "Yeah, this is what Transformers was back in the '80s." Okay, so. He even was sold on that game. So for a 12-year-old to be sold on a Transformers game, and you know they've been bombarded with all kinds of different games and stuff, and to be sold on the animation style, because they did it in cell animation and everything, and he thought that was cool. I was very surprised and kind of happy to see that, because there's hope for this generation yet. Okay, so. The next franchise, I think we're up to number 2. The number 2 franchise that I wish they would save. I wish they would do it. And wait until another company gets it or something, I guess. I don't know, but I kind of want them to bring back either X-Wing, and this was hard for me, because the X-Wing franchise back in the, early 90s, X-Wing... Star Wars X-Wing, and then TIE Fighter, and then X-Wing Alliance. Those original games, you can go back, you can still get them. I got mine on GOG.com, goodoldgames.com, and I got mine there, and I bought all of them because I love those games. I even bought a joystick just so I could fly around and do those kind of things on the game again. Um, those games were awesome. Call up Totally Games and or somebody and say, hey, I want you. I know Totally Games isn't a thing anymore, but call somebody that has a good flight simulator, and say, hey, look, I want you to make me a Star Wars game. Don't let EA do it, okay? I'm sorry, but don't let EA do it. Don't let EA continue to trash your game. But they need to bring back Star Wars X-Wing. And the reason being is because there was nothing like flying in an X-Wing, having an original story that led up to the last, in the original X-Wing, the last tour of duty was leading up to the destruction of the first Death Star, and you actually got to fly if you survived that long. You actually got to fly, in the Death Star and blow up the Death Star, which was freaking awesome. Okay, and in the second game, the X-Wing. When I say the second game, the second X-Wing game, X-Wing Alliance, you got to play after The Empire Strikes Back all the way up to Return of the Jedi and fly in the Battle of Endor, and it was completely, totally awesome. It was one that I was like, oh my god, I can't believe we're doing this. And the graphics were much improved from the previous two games. But the second game in there was one of the most unique things I'd ever seen. And this is why I say don't let EA do it, okay? Because LucasArts, the original LucasArts, took a risk, and they let us fly on the Empire's side. You were a TIE fighter pilot, and you were loyal to the Empire, and you flew. It took place right after that game took place right after The Empire Strikes Back, where Vader is hunting the rebels, and Luke Skywalker, Admiral Thrawn was in that game, and it was neat because you took the role of a pilot. You were promoted through the ranks as you went along, and there was an individual, well-written story about political intrigue in the Empire. You had to find deserters of the Empire. You had to find defectors, and you had to also protect interests of the Empire. You got to fly a few times alongside Darth Vader himself. You got to fly the TIE Advanced. You got to fly for Admiral Thrawn. It was an amazing, amazing game, and they actually portrayed the Empire as a fairly benevolent people. You actually felt like you were flying for the good guys. And one of the neatest things about the whole game was there was a subplot about you being in the inner circle of the Emperor himself. I think they called you the Hand of Palpatine or something like that. And if you continue to do special objectives for the Empire spies, you went farther and farther in this special story that they had going, and it was amazing. Okay, so they need to bring those games back, not just for the flying around in a TIE fighter or an X-Wing or whatever, but because those games were actually intriguing. I don't care if you have to find the original writers. I don't care if you have to find the original designers and hire them and pay them a bunch of money. You need to bring them back. Do not let EA do it. Let their contract lapse, and in 2020 or whatever it is, 2021, get somebody else that cares about your franchise, and make that game, or make a game in that vein. Okay, surprises, blow us away. I don't really care, but those kind of games need to come back. All right, and the last one that I want to mention, the number one franchise that needs to come back, man, that people have been clamoring for a long time, is Splinter Cell. Oh my goodness, please bring him back, man. I'm not gonna lie, on this PlayStation 2, the first time I saw Splinter Cell in GameStop, I actually walked by it 3 times. Because it's like, nah, because I was looking for a good game, something different that I hadn't played 100 times before, like a first-person shooter, or, I don't know, just stuff that I hadn't played before, and I was looking for something new. And I walked by it 3 times, and I kept walking by it, but then I was like, wait, it's Tom Clancy. Tom Clancy's still around. He does real good games or books. And Rainbow Six was good by Red Storm Entertainment. I've never played it, but I've seen other people play it, and I've sat down with other people, and it was really good. It looked really cool, so I want to try this. And I got to reading it, and I took it home. And my first experience with the first Splinter Cell, I was like, oh, this is like CIA, James Bond all rolled in one. I'll take this. This is cool. But I was hooked. And I've played every major entry in this series until the latest one back on PS3. The last time we saw Splinter Cell or Sam Fisher in any way was on PS3. And I'm not talking about, please don't misunderstand. I'm not talking about the add-on missions for Ghost Recon Wildlands and all that stuff. He does make an appearance in those, okay? But the last time you got to take control of Sam Fisher and everything was in that last entry, whatever the name of that. I have it, and it's really sad. That Blacklist. That's it. Blacklist. Now, am I sad that Michael Ironside is no longer the voice of Splinter Cell in the mainline series? Yes. Michael Ironside will always be Sam Fisher to me. They need to bring him back and let him do the game. I don't care how old he is. He needs to be the voice of Sam Fisher. Because Sam Fisher never ages. Okay? It's kind of like James Bond. James Bond's not supposed to age, but he's supposed to be the same character since the 60s. It's what it is. But, he's just an awesome game. Person, the stories are always great. And there's one or two games, don't get me wrong, there's one or two games in there that I was like, really? We're kind of rehashing this thing. But I was just amazed at the games themselves, and I still love them. I played Blacklist at least 3 times on PS3, and I was just like, man, because they had multiplayer, Merc versus, Spies versus Mercs or something like that, and I enjoyed that as well. But the main story, the spy drama, and the thing, oh man, they need to bring those back. Anyway, that's my opinion. If you have games that you wish they would bring back, you can always tell me in the comment section below what you think they would need to bring back and what you miss and you really wish you could play again. Now, some of these games, I admit, like I said, I'm old and I'm ancient, so some of these games are back from the early 90s. Some of these games are back way back in the Wayback Machine. And it'll take a little bit of research to find out about them. But I guarantee you, if you do your research, especially about Space Quest and Curse of Monkey Island and things like that, then you'll appreciate what I'm trying to say. One bonus one for you is I wish they would do the Justice League some service. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? Daniel Boone. Phew, wow. Mr. Boone over at NetherRealm Studios does an amazing job with the DC license and telling a story inside of a fighting game, okay? If you haven't played Injustice or Injustice 2, you need to, if for no other reason just because of the story. Because the stories are amazing. They treat the characters well over there, and I appreciate that. As a comic book fan and as a superhero fan, I appreciate that they treat the characters well. But the last good Justice League game that we really had was on PlayStation 2, and it was done by Blizzard Entertainment, and for the life of me right now, I cannot think of what the name of it was, but it was a top-down game, and it was an RPG where you had all of the major characters like Superman, Batman, Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, all these different characters, and you were basically trying to prevent Darkseid and Apocalypse from destroying your universe. And it was a personal story for Superman, which made it interesting because Superman was intentionally trying to beat the crap out of Darkseid, and they had, but it was just awesome because you could combine powers much like you could on Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. You could combine powers and do super moves and all kinds of crazy stuff, and it was just a fun story. Not only was it fun, but the game mechanics were tight. Gosh, I wish I could remember what that was called. Justice League Heroes. That's what it was. And I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. I played that game probably, well, let's see. I played that game, enough to level up and max out the entire roster, and then just for kicks, I played it one more time when everybody was maxed out, so that it was really easy to get through the game and just blow through the game, except for the main bosses and stuff like that. It was really, really fun to just see how crazy you could make it and how easy you could make the game. You know, so then you crank up the difficulty and you try it again and see if you can still wipe the floor with everybody. But I enjoyed that game, and I wish they would do a Justice League game, and I wish they would give it some love. Let the people over at Rocksteady or something, you know, tackle it or something, because they did an awesome job with Batman. Say what you want about that last game, but those first two games that they did, man, gosh. Even the third game wasn't that bad. The only thing I really hated about the third game was the Batmobile sequences. Oh my gosh, why did you guys do that? That ain't right, okay? But the rest of the game was pretty cool. You know, so there you go. There's 5 franchises that I wish that they would reboot, and one bonus one that I kind of wish they would do justice for. No pun intended, obviously. Anyway, leave me a comment on the games that you think should come back. Or games that you measure that you wish you could play some more of. And again, if you like the content that you saw today, leave me a like rating on the video, and of course, subscribe if you're new. I appreciate everybody who does and everybody who supports the channel. I hope you have a great day. We will see you tomorrow, where we'll do something interesting, probably some gameplay or something. I have no idea, but see you guys tomorrow, and we'll do another video of some kind. All right. Have a great day, guys.